Hey everybody! The book that I am going to do a review on today is Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. It is a great book, as a book recommended by my wonderful wife, and I read it as one of my free choices, and it is pretty controversial, I would have to say. Brief synopsis of the story is that a young girl named Sorsha is part of a Irish noble family, and her father is in control of this area called Seven Waters, and he is leading campaigns against the invading Brits. This is back in the Middle Ages, and the family is kind of a bit estranged. The father lost his wife, their mother of the children, and he kind of distanced himself and is going on campaigns all the time. So these kids kind of have a free range childhood being raised in the forest, hence the name Daughter of the Forest. And one day the father comes home with this woman from this other part of Ireland, and things start stirring and bad things start happening, and eventually a curse comes upon the family members, the siblings of this poor girl, and she has to, through a process, break the spell. And it's a painful, long process. And the reason why this book is well controversial is in two parts. One, it's uncomfortable to read at parts, and another one is some of the problems that is presented in its story. Some of the uncomfortable things is, well, the main character's uh, suffering. She literally is suffering in many cases, and you're yearning to want to comfort this poor girl as she's one going through the process of becoming a woman. She was young lady and now she's becoming an adult, and two, she's having to suffer trying to save her siblings. I won't get into details, but let's just say that she has to sew several shirts made out of weeds that are covered in thorns. So you listen to the pain she's enduring in order to save her siblings. Also, there are just some horrible things that happen to this girl. Some physical abuse occurs along the way from people that she encounters. She's also has to deal with verbal abuse because she eventually ends up in Britain amongst the Brits, and she's an Irish woman, and there's some tension because of that. And so she's naturally thought of a witch and a couple of other things. There's also something critical that happens in the story that sets the tone of the rest of the story, and I won't give it away, but it's something that happened many times for that time period, and it's uncomfortable to read about, and it causes many emotional problems for her in the rest of the story. But yeah, so that's some of the discomfort that you will experience reading the book. Some of the problems are obviously coming of age for women in that time period. I mean, nowadays we hear a lot of tension over sexism and other things like that, but for this time period, it was the norm for men to look at women and treat them as property and to view them as stock. And so you get vibes of that, and even outright moments of people, especially the main antagonist of the story, outright saying disgusting things. Just very ugh. Also, there's a fair bit of violence, and given the time period, that's normal. Um, but also, there's naturally some profanity that occurs also. Um, I would put it at a PG-13 level of amount. Obviously, there's racism between the Brits and the Irish, and so one says something about the other that's not pleasant. And then obviously there's the sexuality that occurs within that time period. Not anything like George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones, but definitely definitely enough to make you blink a little. But all in all, it is a great book, and I would highly, highly recommend it to anyone to read that isn't faint of heart. I will tell you also that despite it being a controversial book, there's many insights and things to be gleaned and learned from it. And I suggest anybody to take the time to read it and to get an understanding of that time period. It is a fantasy, but it's enough fantasy that takes part in an actual time period that occurred where two cultures were intermingling with great hostility. So, couldn't recommend it anymore. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you.